this is not a trial run. We're never going to get this back. And we need to capitalize on this moment. See, that's the way I feel about every day. And let me tell you why I feel that way. In 2001, I ran over and killed a pedestrian, and it really taught me the brevity of life. I said, I wonder what would have happened if I'd been killed that day. I was 40 years old. My legacy would have been poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at age 27, and nobody cares. And I was like, I don't want that to be my legacy. I want my legacy to be, hey, Big A helped Frank accomplish some of his goals and dreams. Like at the end of the day, when I'm laying there, Frank, I hope you come to my funeral because I'm a lot older than you. And I hope you say, man, I remember when Big A was on that interview with me and it made me think and he changed see, that's what we've got to be doing. We're leaving a legacy, whether it's intentional or accidental. We're all leaving a legacy.
Aaron, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Frank, I'm pretty fired up, buddy. I couldn't even sleep much last night. I was thinking about this interview and I thought, man, this is going to be a blast. So thank you for having me on.
Come on now, man. I appreciate that. But I couldn't sleep as well, but maybe it's because there's a storm brewing through. But I am fired up for this.
There's going to be a storm on this interview today.
Come on now. Let's go. Hey, that is how we are rolling here with the Superhuman Life. And, where I think is the best place to start here today with you, Aaron, is you spent the last 22 years of your life both inside of masterminds and running masterminds. So I'm curious, what has being a part of all these groups, what has being a part of brotherhoods and communities taught you about the role that men need as far as brotherhoods and communities in their life, and what happens in a man's life when he's trying to run this thing alone?
Yeah. Well, I think isolation is the enemy of excellence. And if we really want to excel in life, we've got to be in community. You can call it whatever you want, peer advisory group, mastermind, board of directors. I don't care what you call it. The point is we were designed to be in community. And I lived in isolation, metaphorically speaking, for decades, trying to do it on my own. I didn't want anybody to know that I was screwed up. I didn't want anybody to know that I had cash flow problems. And I didn't want anybody to know that Robin and I had issues and we had arguments. And, my kids like, well, what am I going to do? This is the first time I've been a dad to a 16-year-old and I don't have a clue what to do. It's like, man, I had to make all these decisions alone. And then a buddy of mine invited me to join his mastermind a couple of decades ago. And I'm like, I don't even know what a mastermind is. I've never even heard of a mastermind. And he started laughing. He said, just come to my office next week. I'll introduce you to the guys I've invited. I think you'll like it. And Frank, I didn't want to go. I didn't. I promise you. I went to Robin and I said, I don't want to do this. We both knew who this guy was. And I said, he's going to be in my face. He's going to be asking me hard questions. And I don't want him to know the answers to some of these questions. She goes, just go and try it out. So I went and I sat there and met all the guys. There were 10 of us. And I thought, this is pretty cool. These are cool guys, And next week went back and one of them shared a problem they were having with their son. And I was like, man, this is pretty heavy. And so we talked about it. And next week we go back and the guy's telling me some cash flow situations that he's having with his business. And I'm like, wow, man, this is real stuff. And so a couple of weeks later, I go back and they were talking about a marital situation, relationship problem. And I was like, man, they let the veil down. Like these guys, no facade. And I started laughing inside. I started laughing and I got in the car and I drove home and walked in the house and Robin goes, what is it? She goes, you're giddy today. And I said, Robin, I have found my people. I said, they're more screwed up than I am. And I said, I have found the spot to be. And she started laughing. Well, we spent the next 10 or 12 years meeting every single week. And Frank, it changed my life because I had trusted advisors. I had people that knew me intimately and they could help me apply certain things that in my life, it would have been good advice, some other advice, but this was applicable to me because they knew my situation. They knew my demeanor. They knew my finances. They knew my wife. They knew my kids. They knew about me. So the advice that they gave me was I could make application. And so, yeah, man, I'll die with a mastermind group because it's so radically transformed my life.
Yeah, and I agree, man. I started in masterminds in 2017. And, when I look back over, these 5 years of my life, or when I really look at my life here today, whether it's friends, relationships, the businesses that I have, the partnerships, the trips, the experiences, everything has been a product of entering into that first mastermind. And I love what you said there is isolation is the enemy of excellence. So I don't know if we didn't really touch this before, but my work is centered around helping men overcoming addiction. And, addiction feeds itself in isolation. And I think the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It's the community and connection that you build in your path to recovery. So everything you're speaking to here is so true to my life, my experiences, and what we're trying to create with the men here of both the Superhuman Life and then our company Rebuild Recovery. Why do you think a lot of men struggle with reaching out, getting vulnerable, finding that right type of people to bring into their life?
That word you just said scares men to death. Every man listening to this interview right now cringed when you said vulnerable. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like I got
Yeah.
to tell the secrets." And we're all knuckleheads. The truth is that we're all knuckleheads, and we need to be able to go to a group, a small group. Now, it'd be crazy. There's no way that I would go to a group of people and just air all my dirty laundry, right? They have no context. I don't know anything about them. Why would I entrust the most personal things in my life related to personal, professional, spiritual, relational, financial? Why would I go to a group of people and share those things that don't know me, that haven't earned the right? They have to earn the trust. And then when you go to these groups, you don't even initially in the beginning dole out everything. You're like, hey, I'm going to test the water with Frank. I'm going to throw a couple of things out there, see how it sticks. I'm going to find out if it's talked about in the community or among our peers. And like, oh, you know what? He was cool. He didn't say anything. So I'm going to dole out a little bit more. And then over time, you earn that trust. And it's like, okay, Frank's the real deal. He can be trusted. Like, I got this serious situation with my wife. Nobody else knows about this. And I need some input. I need some insight. I need some new perspective. And I don't have to say, Frank, this is private. You can't go tell anybody. That's understood once you work with people for a period of time, right? Once you breach that confidentiality, you're done. Like people in my group now, when they breach that, they get kicked out. There's nobody. We don't tolerate that because it's for that group, right? Because it's not other people's business what you were talking about. So then you have trusted advisors that know all your history, know all your story, and they can give you insight and feedback. And then you have a safe place to go. And so guys don't want to be vulnerable, and they don't want to be vulnerable because they don't know if they can trust people. Here's the thing. Ever who the facilitator is in the group, the founder of the organization, the members will only go as deep with you as you first go with them. And when you trust your information with them, they know then you can be trusted. And so I'm an open book. Like I tell everything in our groups. Like they know me intimately. They know all the areas that I've had success, but they also know the areas I've had failure. They also know the areas that I'm very strong, my superpowers, but they also know my blind spots. They know what my kryptonite is. They know the struggles that I have, and they know to ask me about those and to hold me accountable. See, if they don't spend time with me, they don't know the struggles that I have. They can't hold me accountable to something that they're unfamiliar with. And so, guys, if you're hearing me talk today, I want you to go slow, right? Don't think you've got to go in any of these groups, my group, Frank's group, anybody's group, and divulge everything. You let the guys earn that trust, build the confidence, and then you can go in there and share with total acceptance. No one's going to condemn you, no judgment, no condemnation. These guys are going to help you.
Now, what would you say to a guy that has maybe had men in his life that he's trusted previously? We have a lot of guys here that are listening, brought up in the church, raised Catholic. They've had some issues there. They've trusted in, pastors or advisors or mentors in a church setting, or, a lot of our guys have tried to conquer some of their struggles in other type of support groups. And I've been pretty spoken out pretty, verbally on my opinions on why most support type of groups fail for men going through recovery. So if a guy has maybe been damaged or hurt in the past by men, what do you say to a guy like that? Like, he's like, hey man, I can't trust anybody.
Sure. Well, I'll share a story and it'll give a good overview of the way I feel about that. So in 1999, I was running for the 10th District Council seat of the Metropolitan Government in Nashville, Tennessee. And I was standing out in front of this business and I was handing out my, pamphlet. I was soliciting votes in the district that I was in. And this lady, about 40 years old, walked out of the door and she had a girl with her. I guessed at the time it was her daughter. She was probably 20. And the lady walked up to me and she said, can I help you? And I said, yes, ma'am. I would like to enlist your vote. And these are some of the topics that I'm running on. She said, I have a question for you. And I said, okay. She said, "Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" And I said, "Well, let me share with you first my platform." No, she goes, "You're not sharing anything with me until you tell me if you're a Democrat or a Republican." And I thought I'd go one more time. So I said, "I'll tell you what, there's some issues in our community that we're struggling with, and I want to share with you how I'm going to change that." She goes, "Okay, this is your last shot. I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you a Democrat or a Republican?" And I said, "Ma'am, can I ask you a question?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Why do you want to know that first?" She said, "I had a Republican that did me wrong one time, and I would never in a lifetime vote for another one." And I looked at her and I never smiled. I said, "You know what? Uh, I don't trust women. And you know the reason I don't? Because I had one did me wrong one time and I've never trusted them again." And her daughter started cracking up laughing, saying, "Mom, he got you. He got you." And you know what she said? "Okay, now I'm ready to hear your platform." See, here's the truth. Here's the truth. People are going to let you down. There's going to be people let you down in your mastermind group. We can count on no person ever not to let us down at some point in our life, right? I'm Christian by faith. And so I don't want to preach a Sunday school lesson here today. Christ is the only person or only thing or the only being that's not going to let you down, right? So we just got to go into it knowing headlong. Let's be wise. Let's do our due diligence. Let's be smart. Let's be intentional. But the truth is, man is going to let you down. But here's the other side of that coin. Until you allow yourself to be in a position, you're missing out on a quality of life that you've never anticipated that you can't go to alone. We were designed to be in community. We were designed to be around other people. Are some of them going to lie, cheat, let you down? Absolutely, 100%. But here's what I can say. There's more people that have helped me in mastermind groups for 2.5 decades now than have hurt me. Some of them, even in these groups, have hurt me, but I promise you, my life would be nowhere even close to the success and the growth without these masterminds. So for me, it's the cost of doing business. We just going to have some people hurt you, and hopefully, there's going to be more help than harm.
Yeah, I love that. Love that perspective so much. And it's not putting any person, any human being up on a pedestal, realizing, if we are believers, which, I am here with Christian, based show, like that's what the Bible tells us is humans are broken. Like we're sinful by nature. So in that due diligence process, what should guys be looking for, evaluating in terms of like, okay, is this the right group of men for me?
Yeah. Here's the thing you first and foremost have to establish is what are the core values of the organization? You have to be sure and align yourself with people of similar core values and worldviews. Now, there can be diversity. I'm all about diversity. I learn from diversity. But at the essence, at the core, there has to be a certain set of principles or core values. For us at Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind, my first core value is relationships matter most. It doesn't matter what we're dealing with, whether it be a product or a service or a widget you're selling, you're dealing with people. So relationships must matter most. The second thing is we make it amazing. Now, it may not be amazing to some people's standards, but it's as amazing as we know how to make it. Until we learn a better way, we're going to continue to do it as amazing as we know. Our third core value is no excuses. I don't know about you, Frank, but I hate excuses. I was late the other day to a meeting and the guy looked at me and he knows my core values. And I said, "I have a good excuse for being late." And he looked at me perplexed. And I said, "I forgot to put you on my calendar." And he started laughing. He goes, "Big A, I knew you'd shoot me straight." So no excuses. Own it. Just say, "You know what? This is the way it is. I own it." Our fourth core value is everything is figure outable. Like we're going to figure it out. I don't know how. I don't know what that looks like. But that mindset, not the fixed mindset, the growth mindset. You want to be around people with a growth mindset. Carol Dweck talks about it a lot in her book. And we want to have people around us. When I hate it, Frank, when people say, "Oh, you can't do that. There ain't no way you're ever." I'm like, "Dude, sit right over there and watch me. I'm about to show you for the first time if you've never seen it." Like everything is figure outable. And then finally, for us, truth before opinion. And for me, my identity is found in Christ. And truth for me is those 66 books called the Bible. Once I run it through that, You're welcome to share your opinion, but first it's going to be truth. And so if you align yourself with people with strong core values, principles that they live by, you'll know you're in good company.
Love that. Love that so much, Aaron. And those values, I mean, relationships. Obviously, there's a community, that we're building here. I love the no excuses. Like for me, that's personal responsibility. Like just taking 100% extreme ownership. Jocko Willink's book, right? And then the truth. For me, everything is rooted. I see truth as wisdom, right? Everything is rooted in that word of God that you were speaking to there. So we don't have 100% business entrepreneurship audience. We have business owners out there. We have entrepreneurs out there that are going to be consuming this. A lot of them that are out there, they're working a 9 to 5. They're employed by somebody. Maybe they're running a sales organization, but they're working within company. I think a lot of times people think of masterminds as like, oh, that's for those business owner guys out there. That's not for me. But for me, I've gotten more out of masterminds in my personal life. Now, obviously, we made hundreds of thousands of dollars in the business life, and I can obviously speak to there. But for me, it's transformed my relationships, my worldview, everything. My faith has been a product of masterminds that I've been involved in. So, what speak to the guys out there that are maybe like they're like, this is not for me because I'm not a business owner, I'm not an entrepreneur. Like, what value can all guys get of being in a group
When
like
I was
that?
about 38 years old, I came home with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And my wife walked up to me one day and she said, I don't want you to hear me wrong. I'm very grateful for all that you've accomplished because we had a great level of success in the early days of our marriage. And we had a beautiful home, we had a vacation place, we had nice cars, we were in a good spot financially. But she looked at me and she said, I'm feeling like a single mom. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I'm taking Brooke and Holly to cheerleading practice. I'm taking them to piano recital. I'm taking them to gymnastics. I'm taking them to Girl Scouts. I'm taking them to school. And you've done well. Like, I'm very grateful for what you've provided for us because we're living a very nice life. But I feel like a single mom and I need you here. And I'm like, man. And it really pissed me off initially. And then I went back and thought about it. And I said, she's right. Like, I had a good thing aspirationally to grow financially, but I was offering the family as the expense. And I was losing the relationship with my wife. I was losing the relationship with my kid because I would get up early. I would work all day. I would work at night. I would stay at the office late. I would come home and they want to pitch baseball or something. And I'm like, I got to send this email. I've got to call this client. I've got to. And see, people hearing me right now, like, are caught in that trap. They're like, hey, I got these golden handcuffs. I've got to make enough money to pay the mortgage and the kids want to play. See, here's what happens is the business doesn't have a memory, but your kids do. And one day someone's going to show your kids attention and they're going to be diverted to that relationship. And then one day you're going to wake up and realize that you didn't invest in the relationship. And I hate to say this, but it's true. It's too late then. You know why? Because they're gone. They're in college. They've got their own life. And you're like, hey, Susie, hey, Betty. And you're like, sorry, Dad. Like, I got my own life. I got this going on. And now you've got plenty of money, but you have no relationships. And it's a sad time. I've seen this happen over and over and over. And we've developed the mastermind to help you grow personally, first and foremost, professionally, and spiritually. We also want to help you relationally, physically, financially. There's so many areas of your life that if one of these things are out of balance, it's going to be like the wheel without a weight, right? It's not going to roll properly. And it's the same way with your life. And you've got to prioritize your priorities. A lot of people say today, well, I want work life balance. Well, there's really not a such thing. What you need to do is determine what is important in your life, and you need to spend an extraordinary amount of time in those key areas. The shiny object syndrome can detract any of us. And what you need to do is go, hey, I'm going to just speak for me on this interview. Like, my faith is first and foremost, even above my wife, then my two girls, and then my grandchildren, and then my business. And if you look at my checkbook or you look at my calendar, you'll see where the appropriate amount of time is spent on those things, right? For me personally, each and every day is spent through meditation, through prayer, through scripture reading, listening to praise and worship, getting my mind focused where it needs to go. And then my day begins with physical activity, exercise, right? Time with Robin, then to the job, right? We get caught up. Don't hear me wrong on this either, because certain points in your career, you need to devote more time and energy. You need to sit down with your spouse and you can be like, this is a season. Like, I'm not going to always do this, but like Robin knew when we were in retail that from September to December was Christmas, right? And retail business, like, I'm busy. But then I would take off time after Christmas and we would spend time at our vacation place in the mountains and we would spend time at home and I wouldn't spend as much time in work. There's seasons. We all have seasons, but when you make it your life, right? Then you see there's this cadence that you're always in, aspirationally, always raising the bar, spending more time. I just want to tell you that there's relationship capital that you're spending in order to accomplish that. I don't want to say it's wrong because I love to make money. I hate it when people with money go, "Oh, money's not important." I want to go, "You liar. It's very important." Right? We need it. It gives us options. It helps our lives be better, right? Money's a good thing. But when your sole focus is on to accumulate more for no designated purpose, no real reason, then it becomes your idol. And you just got to be careful with that. So, to answer your question, we focus on all these things in Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind to help you level up in every area of your life. So, at the end of it, you can lay down with no regrets and go, you know what? I left it all on the field. Like, I squeezed every drop out of the towel. I gave everything I had at leveling up, being the best man that I could possibly be in every area of my life. If you really want to gain respect from the people that love you the most, you discipline yourself to level up in every area of your life and you'll earn that level of respect.
Now, would you say for in order for a guy to be able to step into that mindset, right? You know, I love what you said there, right? You know, show like you can show your bank account and your calendar, and like that's gonna tell you where your priorities are. And I believe that to to its T. Like, show me your calendar, and I'll show you what's most important to you in your life. But in order to be able to navigate the life where, okay, I'm prioritizing all these different buckets, you got to know the long term vision, though, right? You got to know where it is you're trying to go to. So, can you speak to maybe, the importance of a man to have like an aim, a long term vision, not just next year, not just the next 3 months, but what am I looking to do the next 20, 30, 50 years of my life?
Yeah, that's good. We've scaled that back a little bit, and I'll explain why in a second. I used to be a very long term thinker, and no longer. I usually plan 3 years out, and I'll tell you why. 25 years ago, technology changed every 10 years. And today, technology changes or doubles in every 12 months. And it allows us to do different things faster. And so now, really, the horizon that I look at is 36 months. I really focus. I developed a program called Come As You Will Be, and we develop it in relational, physical, financial, spiritual, health. We pick aspirational goals, and we've developed an accountability tool that we overlay in our mastermind groups that keep you focused on the task. See, most people focus on the goal. You need to not focus on the goal. You need to focus on the task every single day. And if you do that, the goal will take care of itself. So there's weekly accountability in our mastermind groups as a result of staying on task every single day. It's the incremental, it's the consistency that gets you the success long term. But see, it's exhaustible resources that we have called will and grit. And that soon wears out. And what you need is a plan. And to your question, the vision. Scripture even teaches us where there is no vision, the people perish. The people are not going to follow you in your family or in your business unless you're able to cast the vision. Now, if you're the integrator, you're not the visionary. You need to walk in lockstep with someone that can help you create that vision. I wrote a document called What Do I Want? And Frank, it's really sad. The truth is most people don't know what they want. They want bigger, better, shinier, faster, just give me more. And it's kind of like the dog that caught the car. Once they get it, they don't know what to do with it. And I know for me and my wife, we sit down strategically and we plan where we want to live, how much money we want to make, how much we want to give away, how we want to help the kids, the grandkids, the bucket list places we want to go. We live our life very deliberately, very intentional. And you people are like, well, yeah, big A, you can do that. You've got money, but anybody can do that. You don't have to have money to live intentional. And to be honest with you, very candid, I've got money because I'm intentional, right? I'm very focused. I'm very deliberate. There's places I spend my money and there's places I don't. There's things that I buy and there's things I don't. There's things that I want and there's things I don't. And so we're very intentional about how we live our life. And every 36 months, I update the vision. And it's okay to pivot. It's okay to get halfway there and go, you know what? I thought I wanted this, but I really didn't. And then you pivot and you change that vision. So you're living each and every day very intentional, very focused. Here's the truth, this is not a trial run. Like, we're living our life, Frank, right now, today. Like, today, we got to capitalize on this moment. Like, right now, me and you, we're never going to get this back. And we need to capitalize on this moment. See, that's the way I feel about every day. And let me tell you why I feel that way. In 2001, I ran over and killed a pedestrian. And it really taught me the brevity of life. I said, I wonder what would have happened if I'd been killed that day. I was 40 years old. My legacy would have been poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at age 27 and nobody cares. And I was like, I don't want that to be my legacy. I want my legacy to be, hey, Big A helped Frank accomplish some of his goals and dreams. Big A was instrumental in calling me out. Big A was instrumental in showing me empathy and compassion. Like, at the end of the day, when I'm laying there, Frank, I hope you come to my funeral because I'm a lot older than you. And I hope you say, man, I remember when Big A was on that interview with me and it made me think and he changed my, see, that's what we've got to be doing. We're leaving a legacy, whether it's intentional or accidental. We're all leaving a legacy. I want us to reorient our focus and maximize our time here on earth every single day. Listen, your wife is counting on you. Your kids are counting on you. I don't want my grandkids to come up one day and go, Big A, were you asleep at the wheel? Like, what is going on? Why didn't you help? And I'm like, man, I don't want to be guilty of that. I want to look at my 5 grandkids and go, Big A left it all at that time. Like, I did all I could do. Maybe it didn't end up right, but it wasn't for the lack of effort. Same way with our wife. Like, Robin comes up to me and she says, this is not what I signed up for. And I'm like, man, you are so right. Like, I got to get it in gear. I don't want to disappoint you. I don't want to mess up your life because I'm failing at doing what I'm supposed to do. Well, here's the thing, Frank, we can't do that alone. Like, we have blind spots, we have weaknesses. We need people around us to help us be the best version of ourselves.
I love that so much, man. And I just feel like everything you're sharing, it's like you are, you're 20, 30 years down this journey, but I'm like, yep, that's me. Yep, that happened in my life. Yep, that was my story. For 35 years, Aaron, I was the most selfish person in the world. I lived for Frank and I was not apologetic about it. I used to tell people, I don't care what you think about me. I'm going to do what I want to do because that was the life that I built. And I was intentional back then about being an asshole. And then I found God, right? Then I came to my faith through a mastermind and it radically transformed my heart and it changed the way that I saw the world and it changed the way I saw myself showing up to the people. And now I try to live my life by the philosophy that every time I'm with somebody, whether it's in a podcast, in a personal interaction, whether it's I'm meeting with a group of people, I want to leave that situation. I want to leave those people better than they were. And I want them to ask why. What was different about that man? What was it, the way that his light shone through him? So that's powerful stuff, man, that you're speaking to here. Can you talk about, you briefly mentioned it here with your faith, you're a Christian believer. I don't know how much you're open to kind of discussing this. Has this been, a fundamental part of your life forever? Has it been things that you've wrestled with through your career? And if so, when did it really become solidified for you?
Yeah, great question. I'm very open, by the way, to talk about anything because my objective here today is to help your audience. And if me being vulnerable or transparent benefits one person listening to this episode, then for me, this time was worth it. I came to Christ at 9 years old. I was raised in a Christian home. My mom was the spiritual leader of our home. My dad was a great man. He just didn't have a lot of spiritual inclination. He was a believer, but he didn't really grow his relationship. And I think that's what's paramount in our decision today, right? We can say we believe in Christ, but if we're not nurturing that relationship, it's the same as saying, I love my wife and you never spend time with her. People tell me all the time, man, my family's most important. And they see them 15 minutes a day. And I'm like, your family's not important to you. If your family was important to you, you'd be spending time with them. It's the same way with your relationship. Like, if we never pick up God's word, we never read it, we never pray, we never meditate, we never share, your faith's really not important to you. You're just claiming to be something really that you're not. And I want to encourage those today, if it's real, like, get to know him, right? My daughter came to me. She'll be 40 years old in July. Recently, she came to me. I was sitting in the den, and she's married, got kids, grown kids, and she walked over and sat down beside of me in our den. And our den's pretty good size. There was chairs everywhere and sofas, and she sat down like literally beside of me, touching my leg when she sat down. And I was sitting there, and I was like, "Wow, okay, like okay." And so she just sat there, and I'm like, "Brooke, like, you need to talk about something, or like, what's up?" And she said, "No." And she just sat there, and I was kind of wigged out a little bit. I was like, "Well, man, she could have sat anywhere in here, but she's sitting right against me, like to my left." And I said, "So what's up?" And she said, "I just want to be near you." And I'm like, "Wow." And see, that's what God wants, right? He doesn't want us just to always be needing something. God bless this, cure this, give me more money. He wants us just to be near him. And see, if we're not spending time being near him, we can't get to know him. We got to spend time, right? If your faith is important, you got to spend time.
Thank you for that, Aaron. Word popped up in my head while you were sharing that, and I'm curious what the word integrity means to you. Like doing what you say. You get a lot of people that say, like you gave a couple examples there. My family is the most important thing. They're 18 hours at the office, maybe catching the baby for 15 minutes. I know guys like this that are in my world. My faith is number one important thing to me. They don't even show up for an hour on Sunday morning. They maybe wear a cross around their neck. For me, success has evolved over the last couple of years. That success to me is alignment. It's do the actions that I take align on a daily basis with the words that I speak. So I'm just curious with you, what does integrity or alignment mean to Aaron?
You gave a good example when people say this is important, that's important. Uh, I think when you say it and you don't do it, it's a lack of integrity. So for us to say audibly, my family is most important, uh, I think is less than commendable. Buddy of mine told his dad years ago, he said, "Hey, I'm going to go see Nana." And he said, "Why are you going to go see Nana?" And he said, "Well, I want to see her. She's important to me." And his father said, "She's not important to you." And he goes, "Yeah, Nana's really important to me, and I want to go see her." He said, "Why haven't you been to see her?" He said, "Well, I've been busy." And he said, "But I'm going to go see her." He said, "When are you going to go see her?" He said, "Well, as soon as I'm not busy." He said, "If Nana was important to you, you would have already went and seen her. And what's important to you is your job. That's what's important to you." And see, I hear that every day. I hear lip service every day. Guys telling me my faith's important, my family's important, working out is important. And then we're 40 pounds overweight. We don't have a relationship with our wife. Our kids barely know us. Our kids don't know if we're going to be at the ball game or not. Uh, your wife said, "When are you going to be home?" 5:30, 6:30. You don't call and you're still not there. That's a lack of integrity. I think we have to say what we mean and we have to mean what we say. And I think people that do that have a great amount of integrity. There's so many places that I have fallen short over the course of my life, right? A buddy of mine invited me to lunch. Alan's his name, and we've been friends 45 years. And he said, "Let's have lunch tomorrow." And I said, "Sure." So I showed up, and nothing unusual. We have lunch together all the time. And he said, "I want to talk to you about something." I said, "Yeah, yeah, sure. What is it?" He said, "Yesterday at church, I heard you tell a guy that you've been all over South America fishing." I said, "I have." He said, "No, you hadn't." I said, "Yes, I have." He said, "No, you've been down there twice. The Amazon's 4,000 miles long, and you've covered about 50 miles of it." He said, "The truth of the matter is, you wanted that guy to think you were a big shot." And it pissed me off. I was so mad when he said that. And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You need to be accurate in what you say because people are not going to believe you in the future if you embellish things. It's a lack of integrity." See, it really taught me a valuable lesson is that people are depending on us and counting on us, and our word is very important. I remember my dad saying for years, and many of you've heard this, your word is your bond. right? And it's true. If you really want to be a man of integrity, think through what you're going to say. Think through what you're committing to, right? No is okay. It's okay to say no. Right? I can't do that. I can't commit to that. No. But to say yes and not follow through is the lack of integrity. And so for me, there's many more components, but for me, it's following through, being a man of your word, not embellishing, saying what you mean what you say, and be willing to do it. Here's the real test is that do you do those things even when no one could ever find out? When no one is watching, who are you alone? Doesn't matter where you're at. Robin and I had this discussion not long ago. I had a young man here from Dubai. He was at our house. He was in our mastermind group. And I talked to him one day and I said, "Hey, I got a couple of questions to ask you." And I have fun kind of doing this with young guys. He goes, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" And I said, "Do you always watch the same thing on your computer when your wife is present or not?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I mean, do you watch the same thing whether your wife is present or not?" He said, "No, Big A, I don't." I said, "Really?" I said, "Let me ask you another question." I said, "The people that you're around on a regular basis, do you tell the same jokes regardless of who's present?" He said, No, I don't." And I said, "Well, one final question." I said, "Do you drink the same thing regardless of who's present?" No, I don't." I said, "Is that not exhausting?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're two people. Would it not be better if you were you?" And he said, "Big, I've never really thought about that." And I said, "Man, we need to say the same things, drink the same things, watch the same things." Robin was out of town recently, and something popped up on the TV that no way I would have watched it with her sitting there, nor did I watch it when I was at home alone. Now, there's a temptation for me to watch those things. Like my flesh is like, wow, that looks good, right? But I wouldn't do it with her there or without her there. I would do it the same. So, my encouragement to the audience today is, man, take this assessment of yourself and ask yourself these difficult questions because it's exhausting to live a lifestyle that's not congruent with what you say. And so, for me, we could summarize integrity up into being what you say, what you watch, who you're around. Even if you're alone, would you do the same?
Yeah, I think it's James Clear in Atomic Habits. Scott has the quote: "The things you do when no one is watching is really who you are." You know, that's everything you just shared there, comprised into single sentence. And I think there's guys that are going to hear that, and they're not just two people. They're a person at home. They're a person at the gym. They're a person at work. They're a person at church. They're a person on Saturday, at the bar watching the football. Look at that. You're carrying a load of 5 bags around every single where you go. And then what happens is you can't consciously control all of that. So somewhere down the road, something is going to come out. One of those 5 people is going to appear where they weren't supposed to. And what does that cause in a man's life? So
Yeah. You know, the other thing that's so comforting when you are living a true life to yourself is your kids always know who they're going to get. Your wife always knows who they're going to get. People in your community always know who they're going to get. And for me, that's where I place my trust and confidence in those kind of men so that I know that I'm at a place that I'm going to get good instruction, good feedback, good encouragement, not from somebody that is living multiple lives. I'm just not interested in my inner circle having that type person around me.
yeah, and for me, what I've optimized my life for is when my head hits the pillow at night, am I at peace? For 35 years, I wasn't. I had the hardest time going to sleep, constant anxiety, insomnia, worry, stress. Did they know about this? What if happens if they find about this? Design my life to a point now where that head hits the pillow, it's lights out
You're out.
because it's just that peace, man.
Robin asked me that. She said, "How do you fall asleep before your head hits the pillow? You're out." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know. I guess I work hard during the day and I'm tired." But yeah, you're right, Frank. And there's not a guy out there listening to us right now that can't live that way if he
Mm.
chooses. Even if you haven't in the past, man, each day is fresh and anew, and you can start today going, man, what Big A is saying and what Frank is saying is what I want. And you need to reach out to one of us. I don't care who you reach out to and say, hey, help me get on that path. Like that's me. Like I'm living that way and I am stressed. And I do want to live the kind of life that you guys are talking about. And I know either one of us would be more than happy to help you get on that path, man. So, Frank, I'm volunteering you. So, reach out to Frank, reach out to me. Let us help you get on that path.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. And yeah, guys, we have some exciting news that's going to be dropping here in a couple weeks for the first ever mastermind brought to you by the Superhuman Life. But I want to talk a little bit more about, context, curriculum, the development structure of a program. Because you're seeing masterminds, I mean, in the last couple of years, like it's become so easy, right? You get a camera, you get some, some flashy backdrops, you rent a couple cars, you throw some ads up on Facebook and YouTube, and you got the latest mastermind in the world. And then you get inside that things, you realize like it's just fluff and nothing really in terms of context, right? So, talk about what's going on inside maybe the Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind, what's the structure layout and what should guys be looking for in terms of like, how can I look for something that's actually going to provide some substance, value, and context to my life?
I think if you take a lot of the things that we've been talking about for a while, it's related to the core values, aligning yourself with people of similar worldviews, people that are aspirational, people with a growth mindset, right? Those are first and foremost. Check the person out that is starting the mastermind. A lot of people use that terminology very loosely, right? And you get into a group and you don't have context. You don't know the person intimately. You have no idea what they've really accomplished. People tell you anything, right? Do your due diligence, first of all, on the organization. Be sure that the organization is solid. Second of all, the way we run our groups personally is everything that we do is virtual. So everything is on Zoom, and we start out the meetings. We have the 10 people in the group. We have a facilitator that has been trained by me personally. It's been with us for years and years and years. Many of them, most of them are uber successful in their own right. They've been very conscious about how they run their families and their business. And so they have to align their core values with what we're doing. So they know exactly how to run these groups. And so every group that we have 15 groups right now. Every group that we have is run very consistently. But we start out with big wins. We like to celebrate. And so we start out with wins. We do what's called man in the middle, where we have two people every single week that know the rotation schedule 3 months in advance. They know when it's their turn. They lay everything out very systematically. We walk through trials and tribulations in their personal or professional life, help them answer the situation. We have text threads that they're on. We have Boxer that we use. We have Facebook groups for every group. We use a platform called Circle that helps people interact, and there's documents that can be stored. So we have a team of people, we have a pretty good sized team that really monitors everything. We have onboarding training. You walk through systems to get you up to speed. I developed a program called Come As You Will Be, to where you present it to your group, areas that you want to be held accountable. We do a success and significant scorecard to where we know everything about you. You're virtually unrobing in front of everybody, because if I don't have context, I can't help you. And so I've got to know exactly where you're at. So in the privacy of the group, we know everything that there is to know about you. And it comes over time. It comes with trust, but it comes with a lot of training that we do as well. We get you up to speed. There's an accountability tool that we created that we overlay on top of the Come As You Will Be. So every single week you're filling out this accountability tool so that we know exactly where you're at in the process. We're for people that are really serious about getting it done. Like, we're not interested in talking about the basketball game and the who won the Titans game last night. We're like, okay, that's fun, but like, I want to move the needle and we want to maximize our time. So we've developed a very strategic framework that we run these groups that maximize our time, and you get the value. Then twice a year we meet in person. I pay for everything. All you've got to do is get to the location. I pay for the hotel, the food. I pay for the speakers. I pay for everything. So we'll bring 100, 125 guys together for 2.5 days. We do activities, mastermind in person, have, get-togethers. We do fun activities. every April, every October, we do this. So it's 6 months apart. And then we go back with our marching orders, and then we continue to go forward. And we stay on that constant treadmill of leveling up, getting better in every area of our life.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, I'm all for the online digital stuff. Obviously, Zoom and all these platforms have given us tools that we could reach people across the world. But for me, I know the real power is in those personal groups, like in the in-person stuff. I've been
It's
in,
the glue that
yeah,
holds the other 6
yeah.
months
I
together,
spent more than half
100%.
of September, in 2 different events. I was in Fort Lauderdale for a week. I just got back from Vegas, a week ago, just connecting with people, sidebar conversations, dinners at, conversations at dinner, networking, podcast, guest connections, all that has come out of that. So,
Unbelievable. Yeah. And they're going in business together.
yeah.
People are loaning people money for real
Hmm.
estate opportunities. They're starting businesses. They're vacationing together, starting up new companies. I mean, when you have that speed of trust, once you've been around these people for that length of time, the opportunities that present themselves are endless.
Yeah. I got a personal question for you, Aaron. What, at this point, you mentioned it, throughout the podcast here, retired by 27. You built a massive company, was acquired by Fortune 500. You then got back into business, had some more success by 40. What is driving you today to still continue to work the way that you do?
Great question. 12 years ago, I retired for the third time. And I told my wife, I said, I'm done. And she said, okay. And then a couple of my buddies encouraged me to coach. I started coaching and I saw the light come on. See, we just assume everybody knows what we do, and they don't. And there's a lot of people out there today that are young. They're like wanting to crush it, wanting to go for it, and they have no idea at the relationship cost that's involved in some of the things that they're wanting to accomplish. There's a right way to do it. I failed many times. There was many areas of my life that I failed. I want to help people dodge some of those landmines. I want them to walk alongside of me and say, "Hey man, what can I do to avoid this landmine? I don't want the relationship cost. I don't want to lose my kids. Like, I want to be able to live my life and not have to go through that." Mike McCallowitz called me recently, written a number of books. He's writing a new book, and he wanted to interview me for the book. And he said, why is it that we have to have a catastrophe in our lives in order to change? See, the accident was the paradigm shift for me. It was a wake up call for me. It was like I killed a pedestrian, and I'm like, out of that came my awareness of the brevity of life and how quickly it can be taken from us. In my book, I wrote View from the Top. I talk about how I never saw that coming. I was at the pinnacle of my career, big house, place on the beach, multiple cars, like things were amazing, working 3 days a week. And then boom, my life changed forever. And he said, "Why is it that we do that?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "It's funny because we get a divorce and then we go lose 40 pounds, right? Or we lose everything and then we get on a budget." It's like, why can't we use common sense to listen to people that's been down the path before that can help us navigate around these icebergs? And so that's my motivation today. I could kick back and go down to St. John and buy a little place on the beach and hang out, but that's not the purpose God designed me for. And people thank me every single day. They say, "Big A, thank you for not retiring because today my life is better as a result of being in Iron Sharpens Iron. My relationship with my family's better. It's salvaged our marriage. We're making more money than we've ever made. I've leveled up in every area of my life. So thank you for not retiring." That's very motivational, Frank, when people tell you that, right? It's, I'm living out my purpose. Will there be a time? Absolutely, it will. I've even adopted a new schedule recently where I'm taking a little more time. Robin and I've been married 40 plus years, and we want to spend a little more time away. We've developed a team. I've got the systems, the processes. We're building something that's going to outlive us. Iron Sharpens Iron is going to be here. It's going to be a household name. It's going to be something that is a movement that we've created because we're foundationally correct. And as a result of that, we'll last long term. So that's why I'm motivated.
No, I love that, and we're all better because of it. We're able to soak up 40 years of wisdom in less than an hour, so that maybe a guy or multiple guys out there can avoid either that rock bottom, that earth shattering moment, or reaching the top. We've had multiple exit stories where the guy is sipping Mai Tais. We had all the way back in Brian Clayton, like early episodes, like $20 million exit from a landscaping business, was 18 months into it, drinking Mai Tais on the beach. It's like, what did I do all this for? So if anything, I do this so I can provide or keep people from having to go through what everybody else. So for the guy out there that is like hearing this, but he's like, yeah, I'm still like, I understand what you're saying, but I just can't afford it. There's a cost associated with joining some of these groups. How do you look at, cost versus investment? And what would you say to the guy out there that is so holding on to this money right now? Because we know you got to invest in yourself first. So yeah, just speak to that for a minute if you can.
Yeah, I don't think it's a cost. By far, it's an investment. Yes, we pay attention to what we pay for, right? When it's free, it's like, oh, okay, you don't pay attention. So there is a cost associated with it. We had a guy that called me about 6 years ago. His name's Brian Miniger. And Brian made application to join our mastermind group, and I interview everybody. So I called him, and I noticed that on the application, he was living with his mom and dad. He was married, has 3 children. And I said, help me understand that. And he said, I went broke. He said, lost everything and I don't have anything. And I had to move in with my parents and things are not going well for me. And I said, Brian, I said, can you afford to be in this mastermind? Like physically, do you have the money? He said, I can't afford to not be in the mastermind. He said, I've tried everything I know and I don't have any other options. I heard you on an interview and I can't afford not to be in here. Maybe if I'd been in here earlier, I wouldn't have lost my company. So he joined. So let's fast forward 5 years. He has 60 employees today. They just bought $1 million property and partnered with an ISI brother that he's in the mastermind with. He just got off of a month sabbatical where he took his wife and took himself and just took some time off. And now he's the visionary. He's leading the business. Like he learned how to do that, right? From being around these guys, right? And so that's one example of hundreds that I could give you today. So you have to ask yourself, what investment am I willing to make to level up in every area of my life? I talked to Jeff Hoffman. Jeff was the founder of Priceline.com at a conference. And he said something that was very profound to me, and I'll leave it with you. He said that every day he spends an hour reading about things that doesn't interest him. And I went like, you got to explain that. He said, it gives me new perspective. And he's a multi-billionaire. And he said the majority of his best investments have come out of that 1 hour reading about things that he was unfamiliar with. He didn't know what he didn't know. You see, that's what masterminds do. They give you insight, they give you perspective, they give you accountability, they give you camaraderie, they give you networking, they give you the ability to succeed. And when you're isolated and you're alone, you forego any other insight, all perspective, no accountability. And for me, it just doesn't make sense if we don't have trusted advisors that can walk us along this path to help us accomplish the things that we're trying to do. So, yeah, I think the cost is so minimal in relationship to the greater gain. And I can't even begin to tell you the success stories that we've had as a result of people surrounding themselves with very competent, capable people that levels them up.
Yeah, well, let's tell the guys where they can connect with you, where they can learn more about you, your work, the Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. We'll bring today's conversation to a close with our final question, Aaron.
Well, Frank, first of all, thank you for having me. Really enjoyed our time together. You've made me feel very welcome and very cordial. Really enjoy these. A lot of these interviews don't go quite as well, but I can tell your heart. I can tell you're a great guy. And so thank you for having me. If you do want to reach out to us, viewfromthetop.com is the best place. All the social media platforms are there. We have amazing mastermind groups. I know Frank does a lot of this work as well, but if I can help you in any way, if you'd like to reach out for encouragement, feel free to reach out. Wrote a book called View from the Top. You can get that in any of the major bookstores or online. Get the book, check it out, and if I can help you in any way, let me know.
Yeah, Aaron, and I appreciate that, and the feelings are mutual. I felt like I was just having a conversation with, truthfully, somebody I've known for decades, and we just got connected for the first time through email just a handful of weeks ago. So I appreciate you, your time, your work, what you're doing for the world, what you're doing for men out there, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today. We'd like to end every episode with the same question, though, Aaron. Obviously, the title of our show is called The Superhuman Life. For me, I think living a Superhuman life is knowing you're here for a purpose. But that's just not enough. You need to be very intentional about showing up every day through that growth mindset, right? Who are you developing, or what are you developing to become that man that God has created you to be? But I'd like to get the guest take. So Aaron Walker, as we bring today's conversation to a close, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Yeah, I think if you live with a mindset of can't, couldn't do it, and could did it all, and you fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure, you'll have a superhuman life and you will accomplish success and significance like you've never had it.
Amen. Guys, you heard it there. You need a community. You need a band of brothers. You need a trusted advisors in your life. Like I said, guys, if you are interested in finding out more about what we're building and creating, stay tuned, because in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be making some huge announcements about some things we're bringing you here at the Superhuman Life so you can become your own superhuman. But for Aaron Walker, guys, we appreciate you. Frank Rich, you leave us a 5-star rating and written review if you're getting value out of today's conversation. But more importantly, there's somebody in your life that needs to hear this. Maybe there's a guy that's been struggling with finding the community. Maybe he's living in isolation right now. Do us a favor, but do him the blessing of sharing this conversation with him. But we'll love you guys. We'll see you next week.